Hi Francesca, welcome. It's such a pleasure for you to be here and so grateful for you to taking the time to be here. So I just want to introduce you to everybody. So if you just tell your name, your background, where you grew up, where you went to school and what you do now.
I am Francesca Omisakin. I am a paediatrician doctor. I grew up around here actually, locally.
Is that Wanstead, yeah?
Yeah, or South Woodford.
Yeah, okay.
Down the road. So I grew up around here, went to school locally, to local primary school, local secondary school.
Was that a state school?
Yeah, Oakdale, around
Great.
the corner, Oakdale Junior School, yeah. And then Wanstead High School, around the corner. So I grew up around here, spent my childhood and formative adult years here, went to university, trained to be a doctor.
Okay. Is that something you've always wanted to do?
Yes.
Okay.
My number one motivation, really, life's ambition. So I feel really lucky and blessed that I was actually able to do that.
Yeah.
Really, really lucky. I'm grateful every day. So that's sort of, me.
When did you know you wanted to be a doctor?
I think I've always known. I haven't ever been in a state of mind where I've wanted to be anything else. I've always wanted to be a doctor. There was no plan B.
So from primary school, secondary school.
Yeah,
right,
always been.
Great.
I mean, according to my dad, when I was born, he was like, "Yes, I've got a surgeon now." So according to him, I was always going to be a doctor. But I feel like I decided at some point in my early years. So, but yeah, that's always what I wanted to do. Actually, wanted to be. Never thought about being anything else.
So how did you find that studying at university and going through things? Did you find that easy, or were there any struggles or difficulties?
It's hard work. I remember at school working really hard. I remember one thing that happened at school. There was somebody said, "Oh no, she's not cut out to be medicine. She ought to do something else." I remember thinking, "Don't like that," and that just kept me going. So whenever it got really difficult, I remember thinking, "That person didn't think I was able to do it, but I can." So it was hard work, and you just have to work really hard because there's a lot of knowledge to learn, but then there's your people skills and negotiating the system. So that was tough, and when you look back you realise how tough it was. When you're in it, you're just swimming. But it was hard work, but fun in its own way.
That's really good. So your passion really to become a doctor kept you going, and your determination to actually see it through and not give up. And that's great.
Yeah.
So when you actually became a doctor, what was it like?
Well, that was something different. So I don't know. You spend all this time training, you know, all this knowledge, and then you get there on the wards, and you're like, that's very different to what I had learnt in the lecture theatre. And then it's about organising yourself and dealing with real people and dealing with your colleagues who have been doing it for years, dealing with self-doubt, I suppose, to a certain extent. She's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." But then you realise actually everyone else is in the same boat.
Okay.
So it just takes a while to get used to. In my first few months were really hard as like a house officer, but that's because it was brand new and you work really hard. And then after many years, you just find a balance. But it's challenging, it's demanding. But it's great because really it's about relationships with people, because your work, you're only there because people need you, and so therefore you cater to them, you support them, and that's the great thing about it. There's other stuff which is perhaps not so great, but the actual clinical work is the bit that keeps you going, that's interesting, drives you.
And then you rose up the ranks really, because you're a consultant doctor, aren't you?
Yeah.
So how did you find that going up the ladder?
Yeah, that was it's hard work. So you do your 6 years training. So I finished my 6 years training, and I qualified in 2000. So I am a Doctor of the Millennium, which is very exciting.
Congratulations.
And then I think I started my paediatric training 2001, and then I finished 2011. So 10 years, which was a lot of hard work. I did some posts in London, Portsmouth, Southampton. So lots of London posts, and then a bit out of London, and then you kind of finish and you think, oh, that's it. and it's this thing that you're aiming for from the day that you're sort of on the wards as a student. The consultant is the place to be, and then you get there and you're like, oh, this is great, but it's hard work, and it's where all the real responsibility lies, and it's a lot different to what you thought. You have to organise yourself more. you have a lot more responsibility. You think more about your service and how the whole picture pans out. So you have a lot more broader thinking, which is great. It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are there many female doctors and consultants? You know, was it encouraging, or were you one of the few?
So in the speciality that I do, paediatrics, it's kind of female heavy. There are a lot of female pediatricians. So you're encouraged because you see people the same as you there. I have to say, maybe at the top, maybe there are more males there, so that's a bit where you think, oh, okay, what happened there? But there are a lot of females there, so you do feel in place, as opposed to maybe perhaps some of maybe the more surgical dominated one where there are females, of course, and the numbers are increasing. But when I was doing my surgical training, my seniors were all male. There was like one female in it, and in every job there weren't so many. So it was encouraging to see that. And it's no less tough. Women are tough people, as you know, so it's no less tough. But it was encouraging, and to see how they juggled aspects of life, juggled just being female in that sort of area, and sort of learning from the good bits that you saw, and sort of thinking, actually, I won't do that, but I will do that.
Okay. And is it quite diverse in terms of the females that are there, people from all different backgrounds? And
currently in the speciality that I work, actually it is quite diverse. When I was training, I was lucky to train with people from a range of different backgrounds who trained overseas and come here, which actually is really important, because actually you just get caught in your own bubble, and you sort of see medicine in your own sort of Western way, and actually it doesn't work like that. So far, that has been the case. Maybe in other parts of the country, maybe not so much, but I'm lucky. I've worked in London, so London in itself is almost an anomaly. So you will see people from different areas. When I'd worked in places like Southampton and Portsmouth, maybe not so much. I don't know about now, but certainly then, about 10 years ago, I think I was probably one of the very few people of colour there. So I was the interesting person there. But now, especially in London, and now I work in Luton as well, which is a big city, it's close to the airport, lots of immigration. So actually, it's almost like a bubble. I don't feel that I'm not in London. I feel like I'm surrounded by people from a variety of backgrounds. So I feel, again, lucky in that regard.
Oh, that's good. And is it the environment quite supportive of everyone in terms of women rising up in the ranks or becoming doctors? Do you find that it's quite supportive in that way?
Generally, yes. For me, I don't have children, but my colleagues who do have been able to complete their training as well as build up their family life. So there is the opportunity, if you get a training number, to take time out, have your babies, come back, continue your training. And I think there's a realisation from my colleagues actually that there was no hurry really to get to the top. And actually that doing other things in your life kind of broadened you. Not that I'm not broad, but it does add something to who you are, the way you interact with people. So in the little bit of, I'm talking about paediatrics, it may be different in other specialties, but from what I've seen, there is that opportunity to go and do those other things. And also other people did other things. So some people went on to do other training. I've had trainees that have wanted to go abroad and do specialty programs there, and they've had the opportunity to do that, or go and do more academic stuff. So there is that flexibility. I think you have to search for it, and I think you have to ask. I don't think people just throw things at you. So you have to know what you want. You have to have the right people on board. But the people that I've seen that are successful have known the right people, known which doors to push. So you can do it. It's hard work though.
So what advice would you give to other people in regards to their career development?
So I'm of Nigerian sort of background, and so you have a really strong work and family ethic. So it's all about, you know, working really hard, and, you know, there are certain professions that you're kind of encouraged to go into, and felt that, you know, that's what you should do. So everything about family life when you're growing up is geared towards, okay, well, if this will help you go further, then you'll go further. And there was no sense that you couldn't do it. So I think in terms of, I think I was lucky that I had parents that really supported what I wanted to do, really encouraged me, had my back, were really honest about, okay, you can do this, or actually you can't do this because of this, or you need to do it this way. So I think in terms of encouragement, it's really important to have someone who encourages you and encourages your belief in yourself. I was very shy when I was growing up. Didn't put my hand up, didn't stick my head above the parapet, but I had people behind me that said, no, actually you can do it. So you foster that belief in yourself. You need to persevere, just keep going. And even if you get setbacks, I think I always view that, you know, setbacks are like stepping stones, so you just use them to move on to the next step, because actually the reason that you might not get a job or a place on a course means maybe you weren't the right person at the right time, maybe there are other things within yourself that you still need to develop. And it's all okay. Of course you can say this in retrospect, at the time it's crushing and heartbreaking, you're like, oh my goodness, why didn't I? But actually, and that's part of, again, part of being able to reflect and look back and say, okay, where did I go wrong, where did I go right, look forward, what I want to do, and then ground yourself in the present. So I think all those things are important to help you move on and realise it's a journey, really. The destination is important, but you learn along the way. You learn along the way. So I think I've done a lot of learning and growing along the way.
No, that's great advice, great advice. And in regards to, if you had to pick one or two successful leadership traits, we'll let you have 3 max. What would you say would be the one that's helped you the most? Or you'd say to someone, build on that or hold on to that?
So the ones that seemed to work for me was probably, the first one's grit. So just keeping going, determination, tenacity. I remember when I started out in all of this, there was a sense that perhaps you can't quite do it, but I thought actually I can. So I just kept going, and the stuff, you know, the work that we have, the nature of the work that I have to do is you just have to work hard. You just get used to doing that. Probably motivation. Like I said, this is my life's passion, my life's work, so there was no plan B, so this was it. And actually that's driven every decision that I've made. And then since I've got to where I wanted to be, I hope that I've been able to motivate people in what they want to do. So obviously I have trainees that I have to support, I motivate them, I have colleagues that I have to work with, and when we're thinking about developing services, it's that passion I feel motivates me and supports and motivates other people. And then I think probably the last one was trying to be someone who you're not. Doesn't work, you fall flat on your face. And I think just being yourself and accepting yourself, I think that's part of it, accepting who you are, what you can do, and what you can improve at, really. And I think that's been a big part of my journey going forward, actually, really.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.